Hello and welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live, brought to you by NordVPN. My name is Daniel Cole. I'm delighted to be joined by Record Sports Keith Jackson, and tonight Andy Newport. Gents, how's it going?
Not bad.
Very well.
Andy, it's good to see. Andy, we had you on last week for the first time in a while, and it's, can I get you off?
No, you can start paying me a bit more if you want. I'll come on every time you want me. It's just no bother, mate.
We go any further? And before we go any further here, what's this fashion mishap you've done tonight? Is that a turtleneck you're wearing?
Me or Andy?
Me?
That's a t-shirt.
All right, okay.
Just
listen.
Casting aspersions about your lack of a neck here, Daniel. I
thought it was a turtleneck, sorry. I just thought that's quite not seen one of them in a while, but carry on.
Especially in the middle of summer. We'll come back to fashion later in the show, but for now, I think the best place for us to start is Rangers. We're going to talk about the Rangers shareholder meeting a little bit later on, which I know you were at, Andy. It would be good to hear about that. But first, Keith, some transfer news regarding Koib Droyek.
Yep, that's a pretty good attempt. That's a good start.
Cheers. It's the best I've done.
These names aren't
my ones for the last couple of weeks, so no, I'll let you. That's passable, Daniel. Passable.
Thanks. Cheers, guys.
See, for somebody with dyslexia, this summer recruitment drive has been an absolute nightmare. It's going to take me to get up to speed with this. But yes, Kuhaib Driok. We kind of broke the news on Hotline Live, actually, when Rangers first made an offer for the PSV winger. We said it was rejected, but they were close. I think the original offer that Rangers bid was around £6 million. They've gone up to just shy of 7 million, €8 million. They've agreed the deal. The player has been given permission now to open talks. I think he's sailed through that in terms of thrashing out his personal terms, and he'll arrive in Glasgow tomorrow, we're told, for his medical, and to put pen to paper. I think it's a 4-year contract. So he'll become the 10th signing since Derek McInnes took over. They're certainly not messing about. They're certainly trying to get the numbers in. They're trying to help the manager. I keep coming back to it, Danny. He's going to need more. I'm sure that we can touch on that with Andy. But what is required here is an absolute clear out. And you see it every time this Rangers team goes on the pitch. There are players there that can't be trusted. Legacy players, guys that Derek McInnes has inherited. He desperately needs more quality. I think that Driek, I think he looks like a good one. I think he'll be a decent player. They've obviously got Yokota as well. So that's left wing and right wing has been addressed. I'm not sure that'll be the end of the wingers. There might be more to come, depending on who goes. And I think, Andy, you can bring us up to speed. I think James Penrice is something that looks as if that one might be getting close too, so that would be left back in competition for Romans.
Yeah, I mean, that's one that they've been, I think we broke the story way back sort of January time, December time, that he was somebody that was on a list Rangers were keen on. It's just been a case of trying to work their way through the list of other priority areas. I mean, obviously I was at the AGM, the general meeting today, or the shareholder meeting today, and it was made out, I think a lot of fans are frustrated about the way this summer's been done in terms of the order that players have arrived in. End of the day, the Rangers have had to wait. They've had to pick and choose their moments when they make their moves for certain players, for certain positions. This one, I think they've had to wait for AEK Athens to come to a decision about whether or not they wanted to keep hold of him. I think the Greeks have now decided that he's somebody that they can do without and that they will make available for transfer. So Rangers are going to make their move. Listen, he'll come in, he'll compete with Tuur Romans. I think Tuur Romans needs, frankly, that wee sort of competitive kick up the backside, if you want to put it that way. He was fantastic when he came in last year when he was competing with Jaden Magoma. He's obviously the only left back in the books, the only senior left back in the books. I think there's the young Ashton Scally, the club have got high hopes for, but he's out injured at the moment. And right now, I think you can see that he needs somebody to push him, because I don't think he's been quite at the levels at last year. So James Penrice coming in will go a long way to sort of giving them that cover on the left-hand side, which they are really, really short on right now. And also, the hope would be we get two of Romans back to the kind of levels that he was at last year. But yeah, I mean, Keith's right. I mean, there is certainly still huge gaps in this Rangers squad that need filled. The frustration is obviously that it wasn't done for day one, but that was never going to happen. You've got a World Cup summer. Where Rangers are in the pecking order, the food chain, they're always going to be waiting for deals elsewhere to sort of spark the sort of domino effect when they can then get themselves involved. So, as frustrating as it is, the way that the season started, this was always going to be the case. Rangers were going to have to wait till late in the window to get the guys that they wanted in. James Penrice, I say, has been somebody that's been on the radar for a long, long time, but it's only this week that they've been able to get the sort of their ducks in a row and get a deal in place for it.
I think before we delve into the AGM stuff or the general meeting stuff, it's worth pointing out, Dan, that we've got a bonus ball later on in the show, haven't we?
Go on.
Well, have we not got Mick Gannon?
We do indeed, of course we do.
Mick Gannon and Ryan McDonald. But a bit that we should have got into the show yesterday, but for technical issues we couldn't. But I think you caught up with them at Rugby Park after Celtic's win at the weekend. So we've got that later on in the show. But Dan, do you want to lead the questioning with Andy? Andy, I'll start. See with the meeting today. What was the temperature in the room? And I don't mean kind of physically. What was it like? Was there a bit of needle in the air? Were they well received, Andrew?
Listen, I remember I was sitting at the game yesterday and we were speaking to people around the club, and even they get the sense that the atmosphere today would really much depend on what happened yesterday. And obviously the result went against Rangers, went against Derek McInnes, and that you could definitely feel that. I think there's two things to consider. This was an AGM or a shareholder meeting that the new owners didn't have to do. They've obviously taken the club from being a publicly limited company to a private company, so therefore there's no necessity upon them to have no legal obligation to hold an annual general meeting. But they've given us all this undertaking that they will update the shareholders on a yearly basis in the traditional format, and that's what they did. So I think they deserve credit for that, and I think the fans appreciated that. Listen, there's no doubt the way that the new Americans come in, they are very slick in the way they present things, but there is huge question marks over the way that they have allowed the running of Rangers to go over the last 12 months. I wrote a piece for the website. You're talking about 3 managers, over £60 million spent, dozens of players signed, and who've been allowed to leave the club, 0 trophies. I mean, that is the bare facts of their year in charge so far. And it's pretty much been a dog's dinner. So, they come across, they say all the right things, but when it comes to the brass tacks of it, they haven't performed. They haven't got Rangers to where they said they wanted to get Rangers to. But then, to be fair to Andrew Kavanagh, he appreciates that. He came across, he said words are cheap. He understands that the only thing that is going to matter to Rangers fans is in winning games and winning trophies. Now, I think this is where the fans, there's definite frustration in the room, especially around, the sort of usual stuff, referees and disputes with the SPFL and VAR and things like that. But the real thing that got under their skin is recruitment. They were quizzing that time and time again during the meeting. They faced it all down. As I said, I think they're still talking about bringing in, obviously, Droic coming in. And I think they're looking at another 4 players. So you're looking at maybe James Penrice being the left back. I think they'll want another winger. You're right. I think they'll want another right winger to compete with Daisuke Yokota. I think they'll want another midfield option, depending what happens with Nico Raskin. And listen, depending what happens with Yusuf Chamiti, we're still waiting for news on the scan that he was getting today after his knee injury picked up yesterday. They might have to go and replace him as well. So there's still plenty of work to be done. But that's what Andrew Kavanagh was pains to stress today, was that the unfortunate nature of the transfer window means that you're never, and as I was saying earlier on, you're never going to get everything done for day one. You're always going to have to wait until the end of the window, inevitably, because that's when deals in England get done and that's when the trickle-down effect comes in. The unfortunate thing for that is that Rangers, hugely important games, especially European games. These are the most important games of their season in some ways. They have to find a way throughout this period to win games. They haven't done that yet, but getting the additions in that we're talking about, Adroic, getting players of that quality in should help. There's no doubt, everyone at Ibrox right now, especially the board. I know Derek McInnes bore the brunt of it yesterday at Ibrox when having his team were booed down the tunnel. But I think it's harsh to sort of pin too much on the managers who's only been in the job 6 weeks. You're talking about a board here. They've been in here for 12 months. They've spent an awful lot of money and made a series of poor decisions. It's now, the pressure's now on them to make sure they get the decisions right, especially when it comes to recruitment.
We've got plenty of comments coming in on the shareholder meeting and beyond. Let me throw a few bits of feedback at you from Rangers fans. Rangers is okay, says, Evening McInnes deserves time and we'll get it, but it's Groundhog Day and he's making a pig's ear of his team selections. 6 subs at half-time over 3 games. Vice-captain not making it off the bench. Yesterday, when Cammy Devon passed the ball forward 4 times out of 110 touches. It's wild, and the club can't keep asking for patience. It's 15 years of mental torture. And your loyal Muppet says he, meaning McInnes, shouldn't be messing about. We need more out, more in ASAP before the league's gone. Can you argue all that, can you?
I mean that's fair enough, but it's easier said than done. I mean, Rangers are still in some ways paying the price for the missteps they made in the transfer market. Under Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. I mean, you've still got guys there. Ben Davies say that they just get rid of this summer, who was eating up huge chunks of their wage bill. There's no doubt that again the spotlight's on recruitment. I think Scott McDermott talked about this recently. I think Rangers are trapped in this sort of market of paying, getting free transfers in or getting guys in that £4 or £5 million bracket. It just doesn't really work. You need to really push the boat out, and I think that's what you'll see Rangers do in the final weeks of the window. They'll be looking for the guys that can save the most of their finance for the guys that bring in real value. I mean, Droy, it's going to cost them £7 million. I think I can see them going again big like they did with a Chermiti. Andrew Kavanagh's already said, I think he's already on record previously this year saying that if they have to spend big to get somebody that they believe in, they will do it. I think you'll see that again. But I think that's what they have to do, because right now the kind of guys they brought in that they've been paying that £3, £4, £5 million, that's not going to cut it. You look at Celtic bringing in Casper, who gets himself a hat-trick, club record fee. I think that's the sort of market Rangers have to be pushing for if they really want to compete this year.
You get what you pay for. You saw at the weekend, and we'll come on to this obviously, but Casper, who looks like a player that's just going to feast himself on goals this season. And that, I think there is, as daft as this may sound, these next few weeks, up until the transfer window, I think it shuts at the start of September.
3rd of September, Keith.
But there is a real danger that Rangers get sort of cast away in this league title.
You just have to go back to recent years when Rangers fall behind the title race. How often do they get themselves back in front? Very, very few. I mean, and already 2 games into the season. This is why I can get the fans' frustration. They wanted the team to be ready from day dot, but when you think back to Russell Martin, he said they did too much last season. They tried to change the squad too much. Already Rangers are up at the sort of level they were last year. When you're changing the kind of turnover, you have the kind of turnover that Rangers have every single summer. This is what happens. You can't bring in 10, 12 guys of a summer and hope that it's all going to gel in day one. This is why Rangers need to break this cycle that they're in. Rinse and repeat, sacking, hiring, changing the squad every summer. So whether or not this is the year it works, I think Rangers now need to the fans need to realise that this has to be a long-term project with Derek McInnes. If not, then they're just in for this history repeating itself forevermore. They have to break this cycle.
Well, they're going to, aren't they? Because the chief executive compared him with Jurgen Klopp today, did he not?
Yeah, I mean, I can't understand what he was trying to say with that one. I think he was trying to say there's 2 types of manager. There's a Guardiola type who wants to play all the tiki-taka football, the slow, progressive build-up, dare I say it, a Russell Martin. And then there's a Jurgen Klopp, heavy metal, who wants to just go, get it lump it in the box, get it in the mixer, get somebody's head on it, I think that's what he was trying to say. I'm not entirely sure if he worded it the best fashion. I'm not sure Derek McInnes will appreciate the comparison with Jurgen Klopp too much, but yeah, aye, I think.
That way, Andy. You handled that well.
Well, was there any other main takeaways, Andy, from the shareholder meeting that we haven't covered? Is there anything else that jumps to mind?
Yeah, a few things are interesting. Obviously, one of the big talking points among fans is this, the state of the retail deal with Custore, the kit sponsorship. Obviously, they're branded Umbro now, but it's just through a licensing agreement. So it's Custore that still make the kits and who still distribute them and have control of the club shop. And fans are, let's say, less than impressed with some of the offerings they're getting, some of the kit designs, the quality of the merchandise. And so, Parag Marat, obviously the Leeds chairman, the former Rangers vice chairman, still one of the key investors, he was sort of quizzing that and basically admitted that, there is issues there. They're trying to work through them as best they can, try to get Custore to up their game, pull their socks up, and frankly, on that side of it, if you pardon the pun. But basically, it was an 8-year deal, and he said that was a sign of the sort of financial state the club was in at that time, and the previous board agreed to that. But had it been them in charge at that time, they would not have been signing that. So, listen, I think there's still another 4 years left in that contract. I wouldn't be holding my breath to see that renewed when it expires. I think Rangers will be confident they can go at the market and get a bigger player, or maybe a Nike or an Adidas, and look to give fans a better quality of product. In the meantime, they're going to have to sort of grit their teeth and get through it. But there's no doubt they're looking for Custore to up their game, because some of they've obviously got an Umbro kit deal this season. I think a lot of fans would have liked to have seen some sort of retro, especially around the training gear. They'd like to have seen some of the retro training gear get brought back in, but some of the gear that have been produced hasn't quite been up to what they had envisaged. Also, just Ibrox expansion, that was obviously another popular topic that's been discussed. It's been discussed for years. But they haven't confirmed that. Basically, they had a survey of fans to ask them what they wanted. They've done some feasibility studies, and they're even at the point now where they're discussing things with architects. I think the sort of preferred option would be to sink the Ibrox pitch, and that would sink it down a few metres, and that would allow them to put in an extra sort of 5,000-6,000 seats. I think we've discussed this a million times before. Things like the water table with the Clyde being nearby is one of the big sort of hurdles they need to overcome, but they're confident that is something they can do. Obviously, I think that's important, because when you look at Celtic just in the match day revenue stakes, we know how much with Scottish football not having the huge TV deal, match day revenue accounts for so much of their income. Celtic having 60,000 seats compared to Rangers only at 52,000, that gives them 8,000 seats worth of additional income that Rangers can't generate. So if they can close that gap anyway, allow them in a financial sense to get closer to Celtic, that may be worth another couple of players that they can bring in. And then just finally, I think obviously the referees issue, obviously the big talking point of yesterday's game was the penalty that Hibs got. Soft, I think, is the best way to describe it. Parag Marat was speaking about that. He was certainly he was quizzed at one moment by a fan who used the word that Rangers were cheated, and I don't think Marat was responding specifically to that word, but I think he was responding to the fact that Rangers fans could feel aggrieved by that. He certainly couldn't understand why the penalty was given, and Jim Gillespie was speaking as well. I think a lot of fans expect them every time there's a decision goes against Rangers, they want to see a statement. They want to see the club going tonto and
bring back Jim Trainer.
Yeah. I'll let you use that phrase, Keith. But Jim Gillespie was making the point that basically, they are forceful behind the scenes, but they can't be returned to that. I think it was John Bennett called them statement FC. They've got to get away from that. They can't be the ones screaming and shouting and having a tantrum in public every time. They'll be forceful behind the scenes, but if you keep just going out and howling at the moon, it turns people off. That's not how you win friends and influence people. You have to be a bit cute about it. You have to play the game a bit more. You have to try and take people along with you. If you've got criticisms, if you've got complaints, you have to do it in a more constructive way, a more civil way, rather than just blasting every time a decision goes against you. And that's the way that they're trying to do it. They're trying to politic better, basically. I think the days of the Rangers just launching, lambasting people at SFA and at Hampden every 2 minutes or over. They're going to try and do this in a more grown-up fashion, because I think that's what has to be done. The previous way that they did under the previous board, it won them no friends, it won them no favours. They're trying to get people to come to their way of thinking by playing it a bit cuter.
That's good to hear.
Just before we let you go, Andy, and this is maybe a question for both you guys, following the shareholder meeting today and obviously listening to what you said, Andy, is there still, do you believe, the general consensus that these guys in charge of the club will get it right?
From my point of view, I think the fans appreciate what they're doing, but I think they remain hugely sceptical of whether or not they can achieve it. Listen, I still think you look at their track record, the guys involved in the 49ers, they're involved with Leeds. Yeah, they've shown that once they get a handle on the situation, they can get themselves to a place where they're successful. I think they came in, I think they were hugely naive in some of the things they did. I think some of the decisions were made for them. I think Marat, basically admitted that today. For example, the appointment of Russell Martin. I think the club were, because of the length it took the takeover to complete, and Keith will remember this, having worked in the story so close to the last year, that basically, Patrick Stewart and Kevin Thelwell were left to basically run that recruitment process by themselves. And by the time the Americans finally get the keys to Ibrox, the decision was kind of already made, and they kind of had to go with it. And I think on reflection, they would might have paused that, as much as it would have been, problematic, because the season was coming around so quick. But they've learned a lot. I still think there's certain things that they could have done better, that they should have read the room better. Things like Kevin Thelwell's son being appointed to the club. I thought that was a huge PR own goal. But I think they're quick learners. Listen, you don't achieve the kind of level of success these guys have had in various business worlds if you're not smart people. They will get a handle on this. The trouble is, though, that whilst they're learning, if they're not winning, the temperature around Ibrox just rises and rises. And the thing I have, they said today that we are not afraid of making change, but I think there's still an element that they can be forced into change. You look at Russell Martin, right? He had to go, but Danny Rowe, as much as I still don't think he was 100% the best fit, they backed him until it became clear that the fans just weren't Danny Rowe. And that's when they decided to, as soon as Salzburg came on with an offer, they were happy to gobble it up. If they really felt, as Andrew Kavanagh said they did when he sat down with the media just at the end of last season, that they felt Danny Rowe was their best man, then they would have told Salzburg to bolt. But they didn't. I wonder if they can still be swayed by fan opinion. And that's my only concern around them. If there's a bad set of results in terms of how they deal with Derek McInnes, if Derek McInnes has a really bad start, if this run without a win continues, are they going to get sort of jumpy like they did last season? I think that's still the big question mark over them. I think if they're really steadfast in their beliefs, and it has appeared that they've jumped about a bit. How do you go from Russell Martin to Danny Rowe to Derek McInnes in the space of 12 months? That tells me that your decision making, as much as they're still learning, they're not quite set on what they want from Rangers. I think that's still the question mark. They still need to establish what they want to achieve with Rangers and how they want to achieve it.
I would just on that, Keith, again, sorry Andy, before we let you go, I would echo that, and I would just say, I don't think Rangers knows what kind of club it wants to be. I mean, the past 5 years, the chairman, the vice chairman, the sporting director, the technical director, they've all changed. Manager changes, 6 seasons running it changes. Head coach to manager to head coach.
They've had a complete identity crisis. You're right. And do you know what I think that Andy was getting at there, and certainly I would believe, I think it's taken, the first and foremost, they had to get the business deal done. Their eye was off the ball, they delegated big decisions, they made bad mistakes because of that, they trusted people they shouldn't have trusted. There's been all sorts of missteps along the way, but I do feel that now they've got their feet under the table, that's far more hands-on approach. They understand priority number one now is winning games of football. I think they've moved in exactly the right direction with Derek McInnes. I think that if he's given time, I think that they will rediscover the identity. They will rediscover it. It was lost along the way. There's been a whole shower of charlatans went up and down that front door and up and down the staircase in there over an extended period of time, going way back to when. And along the way, the identity of the football club was absolutely stamped into the carpet. Gone. But this is now about rebuilding. It's like we talked about yesterday with Celtic. You go into Lennoxtown as a new player, there's Callum McGregor, there's James Forrest, there's people around the place who live and breathe Celtic. Rangers need to get back to that, and I think that's what the whole Derek McInnes project is about. It's about trying to reconnect. And I think they'll get there, and I think they've made a good appointment. I don't think Danny Raw was ever going to get it. I don't think he understood what the club was about. I think I know that Derek McInnes does, and I think that what he's trying to do right now is sift through all the deadwood and the carnage and the leftovers from all these other regimes and bad mistakes. And yes, it's going to require a bit of time to put these building blocks down and then start to progress Rangers. But he has to do that, as Andy rightly says, in an environment where patience is already exhausted. So it's no easy stuff. But I think Rangers will move in the right direction now. I think the Americans have got a far better idea this season, what's required than they did this time last season, put it that way.
Well, whatever direction they move in, we'll be here to cover it on Hotline Live. Andy, absolute pleasure having you on as always. Much appreciated.
Cheers, boys. Catch you next time.
Cheers, Andy. All the best. Andy Newport there. You'll laugh at this, Keith, or probably not laugh that much, but a video with Mick Gannon is failing to load. I'm just getting a spinning wheel right next to me. So I feel like the Hotline gods don't want Mick on the screen this week. So well, maybe I'm still trying. I'm still trying, but I thought it'd maybe be a perfect place for us to come to your column today. I was reading earlier on Record Sport Online, your piece about the fact that Celtic, they have to ease the strain, the burden that's currently on Martin O'Neill, and I think it's a very good point.
Well, I think they're obliged to. They're obligated. They've asked this guy at the age that he is to come back and save them not once but twice last season. They mishandled an opportunity in January to get some players in and to help Martin O'Neill, to quality players, and they botched it. Now, I don't know, none of us know, but we might not find out exactly what the sort of health situation was with Martin O'Neill. I know it's pretty minor, but who's to say whether it wasn't stress-induced? But he's a 74-year-old man, and this is a stressful job. And what I believe the Celtic board should feel obliged to do is to remove as much stress from the scenario as they possibly can. There's one very easy way of doing that, and that's give the guy the quality that he needs in this transfer market. There's 3 weeks left. His team looks okay, strong enough, starting 11, scratch beneath the surface. There's a real lack of options. There's a lot of talent in the starting 11, but the talent pool isn't that deep beyond that. He's about probably to lose 2 or 3 guys that you would say are considered starters in that side. He's already lost Maida. So, yeah, I think Celtic, I'm going to praise them again, obviously, for the signing of Casper, who I think he's going to do fine. I think he's a cracker. And he looks like a natural striker. Clinical guy, powerful, aggressive. I think he's going to do absolute fine for Celtic, better than fine. But I think Celtic need to, and why shouldn't they have the ambition to go and get another 2 or 3 Casper Who's in the door? If that means spending £11 million at a time, then they've got the money. They should spend it, because Martin O'Neill needs help.
They're not a bank; they're a football team. Exactly
right, and they've got a guy there that's, at his age, come in, he's taken on the mantle, he's taken on the responsibility, he's fronting up the whole football club. These guys are obliged, duty-bound, to help him. And they need to help him by doing a whole lot better, recruitment-wise, than they have done in previous windows. There's still time for Celtic to do it. But, I would feel it's a dereliction of their duty of care if Martin O'Neill was to go in to September with less of a squad than he had at the end of last season. That just wouldn't be fair, right, or even decent. So yeah, I think there's a heavy onus on Celtic to pull up some trees between now and this window shutting.
I've got some good news, Keith. We can hear from Mick Gannon.
Excellent.
I caught up with someone actually, Rebel, in the comments saying, I've seen this video already. We did put it out on YouTube a little earlier, but obviously it's not part, it's part of the whole show, Keith. Part of the whole show. I caught up with Mick Gannon and Ryan McDonald yesterday at Rugby Park. This is just in the aftermath of Celtic's win. Let's have a listen.
Mick, Ryan, there was no Martin O'Neill today, and he got just what the doctor ordered. Casper Who, an absolutely stunning performance.
Yeah, I'm getting slagged off. I can't help my tabloid kind of nature. I couldn't avoid the Doctor Who intro. I couldn't resist, and I was getting messages. I bet you're going to go for it. I couldn't resist. It's the only chance we're going to get to use the Doctor Who one, surely.
Quite right.
But Martin in hospital and Casper Who getting a hat trick. I mean, it's all there. It's a tap in. So pretty devastating display. I thought Celtic were very, very good from the first whistle. Thought Casper Who was that's the guy that we thought we would see last week. I mean, a real threat in the penalty box. I thought his all-round game was good. I thought his actual link-up play was excellent as well. Celtic they had a wee spell, I think, after going 1-up, and Killie, I thought, had a bit of a go. But after that, put the foot down again. It was 5 on kind of, by the way, double figures. Killie, I thought, were pretty poor defensively. I mean, that's an understatement of the year, wasn't it?
They crumbled.
But I thought Celtic were very, very good. It was a real message of intent from Celtic today. But
well, that's what I was going to say. Who obviously got the hat trick, but he hit the post in the second half. He had 2 chances early on. He could have had 2 hat tricks.
Yeah, I mean, he could have had the hat trick of headers as well. If he, as you say, he hit the post with it in the second half with a header, so he was outstanding. Like Mick says, I thought his build-up play as well was excellent. I think he's already formed quite a solid relationship with Benjamin Nygren, obviously 2 Scandinavians working together now, and I felt Arnie Engels outstanding as well. He obviously delivered the first cross, and who just looks like a real predator in the box. I think that's what Celtic been badly missing. I mean, look at it. I can't remember Celtic signing a striker like of his pedigree. Probably we're talking our very own Chris Sutton.
ready made out the box kind of striker. Yeah.
Genuinely, that's what 26 years ago.
I think somebody like maybe Yang Vennegar at Hesselink was pretty much ready made,
Yeah,
wasn't he? Coming to
possibly,
PSV, having played in Europe, but that level.
I mean, he's outstanding. I think he really announced himself to Scottish football today, and the fans in the left hand side here, they were absolutely, they were buzzing with him, and they were singing his name already. So I think he's, for a hat trick in his first away game, I think it's crucially important for him as well to open his goal account so soon, because obviously had a frustrating night against Dundee. I think he scuffed a few chances against Dundee, but he was getting himself in the right position, so you knew after that it's only a matter of time for this guy's going to score. And 63 seconds I think it took today.
I thought last week actually looked a wee bit nervous, which sounds funny because he's a confident big guy, and we spoke to him already, and he's not exactly shy. But I thought he was a bit nervous last week, and by the way, understandably so. I mean, he's also done it in Europe with Bodo. Bodo's not Celtic Park in front of 6,000 people, just not.
Yeah.
So he would have been a wee bit nervous, but that today will remove any kind of nerves, because I mean, scoring in 63 seconds and getting a hat trick, like you say, could be more. It didn't look like a kind of hat trick that it's a wee bit fortunate. It looks like a guy who's going to score a barload of goals. If you give him chances, he's going to score.
Yeah.
It looks a ready-made proper Celtic number 9.
You mentioned that a minute ago, Ryan, Arnie Engels, and he's someone I want to get both your take on, because I don't know what you think actually, Mick. I thought he was outstanding today. He set up the opening goal. He was all over the pitch. I thought it was one of his best performances in a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. I did the play ratings today, and I thought Arnie Engels was outstanding. He was one of the. It wasn't for Casper Who's hat trick. I think he might have been one of the. I think he was probably the man of the match. He was excellent. And listen, if this, we don't know if this is going to be his last game, but you're taking it week by week at this stage or day by day. But I think he's a player that always tends to split the Celtic support. I've never really got it. I've always felt that he's a player that possesses so much quality, but it's just he's got so much power and energy in that midfield as well, and he was outstanding. I mean, as I say, he set up his first goal. He had a hand obviously in the second goal. The fifth goal with the corner as well. His delivery for set pieces, his all-round play. I mean, he threaded an amazing ball through to James Forrest towards the end as well. He was just outstanding. Yeah. Sean Maloney touched upon that when Mick actually asked in today's press at the end, and he said he had a chat with him, and yeah, he was absolutely brilliant. And you know, if Celtic are to lose him before the Champions League qualifiers, I tell you what, they've got a huge gap in that midfield to fill.
I thought, I mean, Sean Maloney's answer to that question we're talking about there I thought was a wee bit kind of ambiguous. A wee bit. He said that Engels came and spoke to him yesterday and said he wants to play, he wants to put on a performance, and he was real determined in that. And I think, listen, Sean Maloney's basically, he's not committing about incomes, outgoings. He's an assistant manager, and he said, "No, leave that for Martin and Michael Nicholson." So he's kind of deflecting it. Listen, by number twos always do that when they talk. I just thought, did that mean that was a goodbye performance? That's the answer to me sounded like he's went and said, "I want to go and play this game." I'm just wondering if that was him giving it a kind of one last push before he goes. I don't know, but I think you're right. Celtic, if they can keep hold of him for another 10 or another fortnight and get him through these ties, it'd be worth to Celtic every bit as much as it would be in the transfer fee. Because he's the kind of guy that can play at that level. I think he's better against better teams as well.
100%.
He's the kind of guy that could help get Celtic to the Champions League. At that point, okay, you maybe say, right, wish you all the best in your future endeavours. But if they can keep him for another fortnight, but it's going to be hard, because if he's playing like that, it's going to persuade either West Ham or others to go and come and slap in big money bids, because he is top class. I just wonder if that was a final farewell performance. I don't know.
If it was, what a way to sign out, because he signed out a bang. He was absolutely outstanding.
What Alistair Johnson come off at half time? Is there any update on that? Was it just a precaution, or is he injured? Do you know any more?
Yeah, he said he felt. Someone said that he felt something first half and came off as a precaution. He said he hopes. Again, though, you're kind of thinking there's also a lot of talk about him as well. It's not going away. I mean, listen, having had 7-8 months out last season injured, if Alistair Johnson feels anything that's remotely kind of sore, listen, I don't think you can doubt his commitment, and he's a full-on kind of player. And he's again today, I thought he was brilliant the first half.
He was.
But in this situation with a few weeks left in the window, he's not going to take any chances. He's not going to go and say, if he's feeling a wee tweak here and there, he cannot take any risks, because this is his career he's thinking about here as well. And likewise, I still think Celtic would find it really hard to hold him beyond the qualifier. He's just too good a player, and his value is now it's probably his peak. So I don't think it'd be anything serious, but he's obviously, I think in the back of his mind, if he's saying he felt something, again, I think he's still nudging towards the exit door.
The issue is, you saw the drop off. I mean, all due respect to Colby Donovan, he had his breakthrough year last year. It was decent, but he came on today, and he was probably culpable for Killie's consolation goal. He get sucked in. It was left the man unmarked at the back post, and then obviously Kilmarnock scored from it. And I saw Sean Maloney down at the touchline straight afterwards, and he just went back to the technical areas, just shaking his head. So you see the drop off when Alistair Johnson's not at right back. And it's drastic. It's seriously drastic. Well, it's Colby Donovan or Anthony Ralston. You know, they're both wholehearted players, but Alistair Johnson's elite for me. And yeah, as I say, two players that if Celtic can keep hold of them and keep them fit to the end of these Champions League, this Champions League qualifier, then they'll have a right good chance. But if they lose one or two, then they need to get replacements in to hit the ground running as well. And that's the key point: hit the ground running.
Right. Celtic are going to need their fast moving and slick recruitment team are going to have to swing into action very, very soon. I think there should be a right back ready to go very, very quickly, I think.
Well, that's what I was going to just sign off with, guys, before I let you go. You guys are, you are always in the know. You've always got a transfer rumour. Is there any whispers that Celtic might be close to getting it over the line?
Well, we did ask Sean, as I say, Mick mentioned it there, but as an assistant, he keeps his cards close to his chest. He said it's very much to Martin and Michael Nicholson to sort out. But obviously we know that Hussein Hassan is one that Celtic are pursuing, and they're hopeful of getting a deal over the line at some point this week. I think there was spoke to someone at Celtic, and you're looking at an initial £6 million plus add-ons. So that's what Celtic are hoping to strike a deal with for Hassan. And look, I think, we watch Yang out there. Yeah, Mickey and I have different opinions when it comes to Yang, and admittedly, I don't think Yang was great today. He did try his heart out, but he lacked some serious quality today. And said Tinecki came on as well. For me, flatters to deceive. So look, Celtic really need to get a winger in, and obviously Hassan's the top target, and he's got blistering pace. He's great with kind of close control. He can get by a man, and I think if Celtic can add that, then I think that attack could be frightening this season. It really could, because you see the makings of it. It's early stages now. Milo Jam is playing out right again today, and he was unlucky not to score. He got an assist, but he was really dangerous. He looked completely different to he did at home to Dundee. He looked, as if he had a lot of confidence as well to take a man on. And as I say, he looked at a brilliant ball just behind us over to the back post, and Casper Who scored from it. So I think if Celtic can get a winger in, then potentially you might see Who and Duran partner each other up front. But yeah, Hassan's the one they're pursuing at the minute.
Aye.
But obviously, I think in an ideal world, then Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney would love to get more than one player in ahead of the squad registration deadline.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like there's been any progress done over the weekend, but I think with Hassan, it might just be like the final bits and bobs, things like visas and all that as well. They have to make sure they can get that before they push it through as well, because that could be tricky. I think that that'll move on the next few days, I'd imagine. They do need it, like you say. I don't think Yang has got enough to be the regular man every week. I don't think he's going to be, clearly. He's decent enough as a backup, I think, but he's not going to be the main man in that position. I thought Duran was good today. Slightly narrower, but he didn't quite hang out as wide as he was. Cutting inside on that left side, he probably should have scored a couple of chances he had. Probably should have passed a few when he thought he took a shot on, he could have played it in. But listen, I thought he played his part in a pretty big win, but I thought he was decent as well.
Yeah, he's quite silky with the ball. He's got a brilliant first touch as well. And Mick, you actually mentioned it when we were obviously covering the game, that he's very left-footed.
Very left-footed, aye.
So he is a wee bit predictable in terms of cutting in, but I think that's what Celtic have been looking for as well, is a player that can cut in and take a shot for the inside. But he was unlucky, he smashed the crossbar, and I think the goals, he can tell he's desperate to get that first goal.
Aye.
He scored 3 in pre-season, but he really wants to get off the mark competitively, and I think that'll come. It's just a matter of time.
Aye. You're one of those right pegs if you swing it so you fall over.
The very last thing, guys, before I let you go, Mick, Kilmarnock, they conceded 4 goals to newly promoted St Johnstone last week, 5 today, and they've got Ayr United as in their next game. It was a bit wild today, that defending.
I'm glad I heard Keith last week predicting Kilmarnock to be his dark horses. They just clattered into the first 2 hurdles. Listen, the one thing I'd say is the pitch looks fantastic, but the defending looks far from fantastic, that's for sure. They were quite bold today. They went man for man, which is risky against Celtic. But they went man for man, but the men who are gone man for man seem to forget they had to mark the man. Really poor defensively. I mean, gifting goals, a wee bit shapeless. I think Neil McCann took a bit of responsibility for all that, which is, I think, in public that's always like a good thing for a manager to do, but as in private, I think we
imagine Neil McCann at half time.
Well, I was going to say, I think that the public face was maybe slightly different to the one in the dressing room, because it was badly let down with some really bad decision making, really bad positional sense. They need to firm up. They're actually playing nice football going forward at times, and they had a few chances against Celtic, especially at 1-0. A wee bit unlucky, run off the line, and save from Sinisalo. After that, they got the goal back, obviously, but I think they were wide open at times, really structurally and a bit of a disarray. And then they've got Ayr United on Friday night. I mean, is it Friday night, isn't it?
Yeah, Friday night.
Yeah, Friday, yeah.
They need to get back. I mean, it sounds a bit of a cliche. They need to get back to basics and be hard to beat, because at the moment they're wide open, and this it's a recipe for disaster for them.
Yeah, I think Robbie Daisies served a 2-match suspension, so he's going to be back for the Premier Sports Cup game on Friday night. So I think Neil McCann touched on that as well. I think he'll be delighted to get him back, because he's a solid presence at centre back, and they've really missed him. So yeah, we'll hope that he'll make a difference. But that'll be a crack. I'm looking forward to watching that Friday night.
Aye, it'll be interesting.
Absolutely.
They do need to tighten up big time.
Guys, it's always an absolute pleasure having you in Hotline Live. Safe travels up the road.
Cheers, Danny.
All right, catch you later on.
Cheers.
Bye now.
See you soon.
Oh, Keith, Mick has done you there. 2-footed.
He's done me dirty, hasn't he?
I forgot he said that.
I stand by it. I think Kilmarnock, you know, look at the form that they had under Neil McCann last season. Had to make a few changes. I think they'll be okay. I do wonder if the park is going to be, or the pitch, is going to be a help or a hindrance.
That's the funny thing, Keith, because see that Astro, everyone hated playing on it apart from Killie.
Yeah, Kilmarnock were perfectly happy with the playing surface. They were used to it. I think it did give them an advantage. But as I said to you, I think he's got too many good players. I think the strategy that he adopted against Celtic was a bit naive, to be perfectly frank. He wanted to go toe-to-toe with them. And look, that's what happens. If you go toe-to-toe with Celtic, there's always the chance that if they click on the day, the big players start enjoying themselves as they did on that pitch, then you end up with a bit of a bloody nose. That's what happened to Kilmarnock at the weekend. I wouldn't be pressing any panic alarms there for Kilmarnock. I think they'll be okay this season. As I said, yes, thank you, Mick. I pointed out that I think might be a bit of a dark horse. They might have a shot at the top six. Not the way they started up, but there's plenty of time to turn that around.
Just before we finish, Keith, let me run through a few Celtic comments that have been sent in, because we've had lots of comments again tonight. Chris writes in saying Hassan, Gintes, Bauer, Hickey and Taylor in on loan, all before deadline day finishes. We heard it here first. And just quickly, Keith, Hickey is one that seems to be gathering momentum on social media. A lot of people saying that Celtic might be in for him to take him on loan for the season, so that might be one to watch. I don't know.
Well, he's well thought of at Brentford, so I'm not too sure that they'll be happy just to let a guy that would probably be a starter most weeks out the door on loan. I think that there would need to be a suitable fee. And by the way, what did they pay for him? About 15 million quid?
I was going to say, it doesn't really make sense to me, that one, but I'm just don't shoot the messenger. Robert says, if we sell Hatate and Engels...
Hassan has moved on. I think over the last 24 hours, it looks like there might be a deal in place now with Real Oviedo. So that one could be done. There's another really interesting one that's come up was Kasper Dolberg. Obviously, he was a long-term Celtic target.
Yep.
I think Peter Lowe was furious that the deal collapsed, and it collapsed. It's almost like when you're buying a house and the chain collapses somewhere along the line. I think Chelsea had to make a move for somebody, and it triggered a chain of events, which meant Ajax were in and had to, they pressed ahead and they got Kasper Dolberg when I think Celtic thought they were in the driving seat. So he's a guy that's been a long-term target, and Ajax have made it clear that he's available to move on this summer. I'd be surprised if Celtic weren't interested, but we shall see.
Aye, we will see. The last couple of comments, let me run through. Robert says, if we sell Hatate, Engels, that leaves us McGregor, Negrin, McCowan and Chamberlain. We play three in midfield. It leaves only one spare in there. Chick says, who was dynamite? Be even better once Duran starts playing off him instead of on the wing. And Mark simply says, Keith, can you remember the last time Celtic didn't end the transfer window weaker? I can't remember one since Ange. And finally, Sean says, in my opinion, Celtic will sign Hassan and then revert to the holding pattern with regards, waiting to see who goes. Then the last week we'll bring in the backup players with loans. So there you go.
Well, if they do that, then they've done their manager dirty. I said to you, right, as I said, we don't know what brought about, the sort of bad turn that Martin O'Neill's had with his health. But I'd be surprised if there isn't an element of stress involved in there somewhere.
There's got to be.
And I really feel that, even a point of principle and basic kind of moral stand, Celtic's board have to be seen to help the guy as much as they could possibly do that this summer. Throwing the scattergun around on the final few hours of the transfer window and coming back in with a whole bunch of guys that aren't fit for purpose, that's no use to anybody. They've got money. They should have realistic targets, proper quality players. They should be moving heaven and earth to get them into Martin O'Neill's dressing room between now and September 3. You've
actually just hit the nail on the head. Do you think of, no harm to them, but Chavanchara, Adamu, Mavuka, it was pointless bringing them in.
Yes.
It contributed very little, just took a wage.
Hopeless. It was actually embarrassing. And that was a Celtic board which was already under the thumb, which already, had to try and win back the hearts and minds of our support, which had long since become fed up with their transfer dealings or lack thereof in the windows. The failure to replace Kyogo, it's become a serial problem for them. And I just feel, if ever they surely feel obliged to do something much more better, much more ambitious, much more expensive, it has to be this summer, and it has to be to help Martin O'Neill.
Yeah.
And I think if they can do that, Celtic Park will be a happy place. I think you see what the reaction is to Kasper Hu, because Celtic fans aren't daft. They know what they're seeing, and they can see already in this one, this is a guy that was worth spending serious money on. I think Celtic could do another 2 or 3 of that calibre.
Amen to that. tonight, Keith, that brings us to the end of Monday Night's Hotline Live, brought to you by NordVPN. Thank you very much to Andy Newport, who obviously joined us earlier, and of course to Michael Gannon and Ryan McDonald, who joined us 24 hours late, albeit from Rugby Park. And Keith, it's always an absolute pleasure.
See you tomorrow, Daniel.
Yep, we're back at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Thank you very much for watching tonight. Hope you can join us then. Cheers.